Welcome on behalf of Hope Through Housing. This parent education series is intended for residents of National Core. Our goal is to bring you experts on topics that may be useful to you and your family. This parent education series will focus on enhancing parenting practices and behaviors, also learning age-appropriate child development skills and milestones, and promoting positive play and interactions between parents and children. We hope you enjoy.
Hello there. My name is Jennifer Johnson, and I am a registered associate marriage and family therapist with Christian Counseling Service. I work in the SART and EIIS program here at CCS, and we service children from the ages of 0 to 9 in this program. And one of the main things that we do when working with this age group is we play. Play therapy is the way to go with the little ones. And a lot of adults, I should say, have a very difficult time with playing. You might be one of those parents who has a hard time being silly and playing. I have a lot of colleagues that are very apprehensive when it comes to working with kiddos. Me, I still think I'm 3 to 5 years old. I like to play. So there's a lot of things about playing with your child that tells you so much about who they are. An example is if you've ever played Uno with your child. It's not just a card game. It's what are their critical thinking skills? How do they handle winning? How do they handle losing? Can they learn strategy? Do they get upset when you throw down a skip +2 on them? Are they able to bounce back and kind of learn from you? There's so many things, when they fall apart because they're losing, do they come to you to make them feel better? There's so many things about playing with your child that you can be doing. And there's lots of ways that you can learn how to bond with your child and keep them engaged, because it's really hard when you're working with a kiddo who all you want to do is play with them, but they just do not have any interest in playing with you. Excuse me. So today we're going to talk about a few ways that we can play and ways that you can bond and keep your child engaged. So what we're going to talk about tonight is having an empathic response to your child. We're going to review a play modality that we use a lot here at CCS known as PCIT. And we're going to go through some interventions or games that we can do. So the first thing to understand when it comes to parenting children, and this is actually something that you can carry on to a lot of other relationships in your life, but it's responding with empathy. So you might find some of these phrases very familiar, saying things like, it wasn't that bad, or you're overacting, like it's not necessary for you to feel this way. It's not worth getting upset about. You really don't have to feel that way. Or don't be so dramatic. I have definitely said all those, and I've definitely had all of those said to me. Now, the problem with statements like that is a lot of them, we mean them to be comforting, right? Don't cry is another big one. When we see a kid cry, the first thing we say to them is, oh my gosh, don't cry. It's okay. Don't cry. We can get you more popcorn. No, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Now, there's nothing wrong per se with saying that. But why it's not the best option to start with is because it invalidates a person's experience. Now, if you were able to watch our developmental presentation, you'll learn that from the ages of 2 to 7, we're a very egocentric people, which means what is in our head and our reality is the only truth in the world. And so, yeah, me dropping my ice cream cone 2 minutes after I get it, it's not a big deal. I can go get more ice cream. But before I can think of that, my little brain tells me, I am never going to have ice cream again. It is the biggest deal. And I just got my cone and I'm so sad and it's melting and I'll never have it. As an adult, that looks very dramatic. As a child, yeah, it's not necessary, but that's how they feel. And as adults, we're very quick to rush in to make someone feel better or offer a solution. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it also doesn't teach us a lot as people. So there's lots of ways that adults invalidate kids' feelings. One, we try to rush them through it. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. You've cried enough now. We tend to try to distract them. Don't cry. Look, let's go pet the doggy. Come on. Isn't he so soft? Stop crying. Shh, shh, shh. We tend to minimize what they're going through. It's just a little bump. You're fine. Oh my gosh. And we discredit it. We discredit their feelings. We say, it's just a bug. It is not going to sting you. There's no reason to be scared. There's no reason for them to be scared, but you can say that as an adult because you can logically and critically think. Kiddos don't know those things. And even when we do, they're in distress and our reptilian brain pops up whenever we're in distress. So it's not a bad thing to say to someone, it's okay, don't cry. But you also want to make sure you capture the feeling, right? So instead of saying something like, don't cry, it's, you're really upset right now. I can see that you're crying so hard. You're so upset. You're validating their feeling and their experience. And this is also an important practice because you're teaching your child the language of what they're going through. You're naming it for them. You're crying right now because you're upset that your ice cream fell. You're so disappointed. I can see that. You get them and you just told them what they're going through. So instead of rushing, try empathizing. You know, again, this is really upsetting for you. I can see that. That's really overwhelming. Connecting is another one. There's a difference between a bid for attention and a bid for connection. A lot of times when we see our kiddos doing attention-seeking behaviors, yeah, they're looking for attention, but the underlying layer to that is it's not just attention, they're looking for a connection. So it seems like you're feeling nervous about the doggy coming closer. Do you want me to pick you up? Right? You're adding, I see your experience, I see you're scared. Can I take care of you? That's teaching them how to use their resources and to trust that mom or dad's got it. Coming from an understanding place, so the minimizing example is it's just a bump, you're okay. An understanding perspective would be, oh, you bumped your shin and that sounded like it really hurt. Oh my goodness, ouchies. Yeah, and you're crying a lot because this is just so much. Now, I acknowledge that that sounds like you're coddling or babying your child. And depending on your cultural background and the way that you're raised or your age and generation that you're a parent in, yeah, that's what you learned. That is. Empathy is not babying somebody. You're not saying, oh, my poor little baby, he bumped his shin and now he can't walk and I have to carry him and we're going to put ice on it. And you make a whole big dramatic thing. It doesn't have to go that far. You're not babying them. You're just acknowledging, dude, that hurt. I can see that. And yeah, you're upset. You got a right to be that way, buddy. And then instead of discrediting, we want to validate, right? Oh my goodness, since you got stung by that bee, all bugs have gotten scarier, haven't they? Right? Especially if your child was stung by a bee and they see a bee. Of course they're going to freak out when they see one. No, that something bad happened last time. And if you remember from our developmental presentation, everything we experience gets stored inside of us and teaches us how to respond in the future. So if I get stung by a bee, I'm going to remember that. That's sticking with me. And the next time I see a bee, I am not going to be so happy-go-lucky and carefree about this bee. I'm going to back up because I'm going to remember that thing hurt me last time. I'm not messing with that. So again, you want to validate what they're experiencing, because who doesn't want to be validated and seen and heard and given permission to freak out, given permission to have a hard time? A lot of people don't get that. So one of the main models that we use here at CCS, and it's another one of those kind of buzz word models, is PCIT. And what PCIT stands for is parent-child interaction therapy. Now, the basic model is that you learn what's known as the PRIDE skills. And every week you come in and you are sitting down with your child with toys at a table, and you're wearing an earpiece, and you're being coached by the therapist on how to use your PRIDE skills. And you're also given 5 minutes of homework every week or every day, where you got to spend 5 minutes a day having what's known as special playtime with your child, which is when you should be practicing the various PRIDE skills. And every week you learn new skills and you get coached through it. And why this is an important thing, and a lot of parents have a hard time, not just parents, but adults too, kind of have a hard time, is because when you have a child who has a lot of behavioral issues, playing with them, just sitting and playing, doesn't feel productive. It feels like, okay, like we just play with this Play-Doh every week, but he's still getting kicked out of school. Like, this isn't helping me. This is where PCIT is not for every single situation, but the premise behind it and the research behind this, it's an evidence-based practice, which means that there's evidence that it works. And it works when all of the right circumstances are in order. And any kind of play therapy, for the most part, especially when we're working with younger children, is very dyadic, which means that it's not just about the kid alone. The caregiver is also part of this. So you will be in session a lot with our kiddo. Is we do a lot of dyadic work, because the main idea is that the better the relationship, the closer they are to you, the more they want to please you, the more they want to connect with you, the more they want to behave for mommy, right? It's not because they're not doing it because they don't want to, but building that relationship changes their motivation, and it builds the security and the safety and the trust as you, as the adult, which in then brings down some of those behavioral things. They care now. They are now motivated by something other than toys or candy or TV time. They're motivated by you and the relationship. And that's what we want to see. And so this is why models like PCIT, there's another really great one called TheraPlay. For infants, we use one called Watch, Wait, Wonder. We do a lot of dyadic work, because as the grown-up in the child's life, it is our job to contain them and their big feelings. So with the PCIT model, the basic skills are praise, reflect, imitate, describe, and enjoy. See how it's PRIDE, P-R-I-D-E? Pretty slick. So when it comes to the PRIDE skills, it's a little tricky, which is why you need the weekly coaching. But when you're having your special playtime, there's certain language you want to avoid. So you want to avoid words like no, don't, stop, quit, or not. You want to avoid commands to the child, and you want to avoid criticisms. This is another area that adults have a very difficult time, because as parents, we're supposed to teach the child something. And this is not, it's not like you're not allowed to say stop or no or don't ever. That's not realistic for parenting. Children need these things as well, but not during special playtime, because special playtime is about us being together and me sitting there and seeing you and being with you. And it's 5 minutes a day. And the cool thing is that as you learn the pride skills, you learn how to integrate them into different parts of your life. And later on, you'll see an example of an experiment and how you can start putting the pride skills into that experiment. And we talked about the special playtime, which is 5 minutes a day. So what are the pride skills? Well, first of all, we want to praise appropriate behavior. Now we want it to be, so there's a difference between praises and labeled praises. So praises are things like, good job, that was a good job. Okay, good start. What did I do that was good? We want a labeled praise, which is specific. I like how you're rolling your Play-Doh so carefully. I love that you're taking your time and really focusing on that drawing. Mommy loves it when you clean up your toys by yourself. I didn't even have to help you. You're very specific about what they did right. And what praising does, what labeled praising does, is it increases the desired behaviors, right? We just told them, Mommy loves it when you're sitting in your chair nice and quiet like that. Great job sitting down. It lets the child know what you like. Cool, Mom likes it when I sit like this. It increases the child's self-esteem. Yeah, I am a good kid sitting on my chair, aren't I? A quick little side note. I have a child who, I have a concept known as good sitting, which good sitting means you have to have quiet hands, quiet mouth, eyes forward, quiet feet, and your bottom on your chair. And every week, she's getting squirrely, and instead of me constantly nagging her and saying, hey, knock it off, put your hands down, don't touch that, stop, 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 stop. We all know that, right? What I say is, oh, I don't see ready. Can you show me what ready looks like? And then, of course, the kid will always say, I'm ready. I'm like, well, I hear it. I need to see it. And on her own, she will. Or if I'm talking and I don't notice her, she'll on her own sit up and like go like that and look at the screen and be like, notice anything about me? And I always make a big deal. I'm always like, wait a minute. How did you remember how to have good sitting? I didn't even have to tell you. Ugh, you're just so good at it. This kid does that on autopilot now because I've praised it so much, and she feels so good about herself. And when I don't acknowledge it, she is very quick to be like, did you notice something? Did you miss something? Look at my hands. She's very proud of herself for knowing that, and I'm proud of her as well. It adds warmth to the relationship as well. Labeled praising feels good. It feels good to give a praise, and it feels good to get one. You're also modeling positive social behavior, and again, it makes both of you guys feel good. So I have a quick example of the praising of the pride skills. So what examples are, again, I like the way you're playing so gently. You have wonderful ideas for this picture. Look how creative you are. I'm so proud of you for staying calm. You know, you did a really great job. Excuse me. Excuse me. You did a great job concentrating on building your garage. Or thank you for sharing with Mommy. That was really nice. I like when you share. You're very clear. The second skill is reflections. You reflect appropriate talk. Simplest terms that I can think of is reflecting is just repeating what they're saying, literally. And what reflection does is allows the child to lead the conversation. It shows the child that you're listening and understanding, and in a very non-invasive way too. One of the things in this last slide was that we want to avoid questions or commands, right? So when we're playing with kiddos, a lot of adults want to just jump in there, or they're cool with letting the kid lead, but they want to add their own ideas. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not what special playtime is about at that point. It's not about teaching. It's just about being there and available. And if the child invites you in, great. And you're learning how to read them and when to back off and when to sit. So it helps your child know that you're present and watching them without it being invasive. And let me tell you, if your child wants you to be a part of the play, you will know it. They will show you and tell you and give you the assignment of, mommy, you're the dog. You're supposed to say woof, woof. So you'll know if they want you to play with them or not. It also helps improve the child's speech and increases social communication. It calms anxious children, and it's a non-critical way of correcting. So let's look at an example of reflection. So the example here is the child says, I did it all by myself. And parent says, yes, you did that all by yourself. Just repeating what they said. The child says, I drew a blue flower. You drew a blue flower? Wow. You just corrected your child in a way that was non-critical. You just reflected it the correct way versus not drew, try it, drew. Not the right moment for that. Again, it's not that you never want to do that as a parent. When it comes to special playtime, that's not what it's about. You can correct them, but with a reflection. I am so tired. Oh, you're tired. This isn't working. I'm mad. You're getting so mad because you can't figure that out. I can see that, right? You're literally just repeating what they're saying, but you're being so validating. You're being so present, and you're hearing what they have to say, and they feel that. And as the grown-up, you're like, all I did was repeat what you said. Hey, you just learned a new therapy Jedi mind trick. Okay. So the next one is imitate appropriate play. So why is this important? Well, it helps the child feel important. It shows approval of the child's play. It models and increases desired behaviors, and it increases child imitation of what you do. We want children to imitate what we do, which is why we have to be careful about what we do in front of them, right? So an example of modeling and increasing desired behavior, let's say your kiddo is being really rough with some toys, or they're being very just kind of destructive with the Play-Doh. And instead of saying or nagging, like, stop it, knock it up, you're going to break the toy, it's just not going to help in that situation. So what you can do is you take your Play-Doh and you just start rolling it gently and playing, like you're modeling for them the correct way to do it. And if they start imitating you, great. We want to see that with kiddos, because if you haven't seen our developmental presentation, I highly recommend you take a look at it, because it breaks down the different stages of our cognitive and psychosocial development. And when we are in the ages of 2 to 7 years old, we are in what's known as a pre-operational stage of thinking. So everything from the time we're 2 to 7 is symbolic. Pretend play is all the rage, because that's how we process. That's our language at that age. And why a child imitating their parents, their family members, is so important and is such a great thing to see happen, is because they're trying it out. They're trying it out for themselves. And this is why children playing with baby dolls is really important. They're nurturing and practicing being nurturing by what you're showing them. So a child imitating what you do is great, because they're learning from you. They're also allowing you to be a part of their moment. They don't have to do that. And you're able to just kind of accept, this is what we're going to do. And that's fun, and that's okay. So the next skill is for D, it's describing appropriate play or behavior. This is also referred to as behavioral descriptions. And so behavioral descriptions, I am actually a very big fan of behavioral descriptions. They increase concentration and attention to activity. So if your kid's being really squirrely, this is amazing how fast it'll bring a child down. It slows down an active child, absolutely does. It teaches vocabulary for desired behaviors. It increases a child's mindfulness, which, if you're not familiar with the term, mindfulness is basically the practice of staying in the here and the now. We're not thinking about what happened yesterday. We're not thinking what's going to happen in an hour. We are just present in this moment. And it maintains the child's interest. So let's look at what that looks like. So for imitation, we had the example of, I'm going to tap the blocks quietly, just like you, right? Or we're driving our trains down the track. Then that's imitation, but it's also a little bit of reflective. A little, actually, no, it's probably more like descriptive. I'm sorry. Yes, descriptive behaviors. So an example would be like, oh, you're putting the toys back one at a time. You're keeping the plate on the table. You're sharing your animals with me. You're rolling the plate out very carefully. In the context of play, it is also, moving over slides here, excuse me. In the context of play, it's very similar to reflections because it allows you to be a participant without being invasive. You're literally just describing what their hands are doing. So you're taking the red block and you're stacking it on the blue block, and now you're going to take the purple block and put that on top, and you're taking your time. And you don't have to do an exact play-by-play, but when in doubt, just describe what their hands are doing. And again, it slows them down because you're organizing it for them in a verbal way. You're putting it into this nice, neat little container. And you'll know that it's working because you'll see the child start to describe themselves, right? Yeah, now I'm going to take my blue car and I'm going to put it up the ramp. You're helping their internal self organize as well. I'm a big fan of them. And then the E for the pride skills is enjoy the time you spend with your child, right? That's a given. But to be fair, a lot of parents have a very hard time enjoying their time with their child because there's behavioral issues. It's really hard to get rejected by a kid. It's very hard to feel compassion and patience when you yourself feel rejected by this little person, no matter how hard you try. Your efforts are not in vain. They're just in the wrong place. You're going uphill, and it's going to be work, but it doesn't need to be as hard as it is sometimes. And the main thing is we want to enjoy our children. We want to enjoy our time with them. And so, why is this important? Well, it demonstrated interest in them, right? We're modeling those positive emotions. It's increasing the child's interest in play. It creates warmth and it reinforces desired behaviors. Now, those bullet points you've seen across all these other pride skills, right? And so again, these pride skills kind of work interchangeably with one another. And let's take a look at the... So enjoying looks like smiles, eye contact, your arm around the child, you rub their back, you tussle their hair, you're using a warm voice and tone, you're laughing together, you're clapping, and you're saying things like, I am having so much fun with you, or, oh my gosh, you are so silly, or You're so creative. Look at all these really cool drawings that you make. Gosh, I love watching you draw. And you mean it. Kids know when you don't mean it. And they know when you're not, that you're not fully invested. I have a child who it was just a hard day. I was running on very little sleep. I was stressed about different things in my life. And so I particularly was very quiet in session with this kiddo. We were playing Uno. And after a few moments, he sat back and he was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he says, "You're not here. You're not here. You always know what I'm thinking and you can't even remember what we're talking about." This little 7-year-old called me out. He could tell, "You're different. Why do I have to explain this to you? You know how to read my mind. Like, who are you?" So we can't fake it. But as you can see in the example, we don't have to do a whole lot to show that we care, right? We don't have to make a big, huge deal. Not a lot of parents, not every parent is a happy, peppy cheerleader. And guess what? Not every moment needs to have a happy, peppy cheerleader. You find your own way of expressing that. It's your moment with your child. So some considerations for things like not just PCIT, but interacting with your child in general. Things you want to assess for is like your child's attention span. There's a lot that we need to do in order to be prepared to have these positive, fun experiences with our kiddos. And it really boils down to expectations. And so understanding attention spans is really important. If your kid can only maintain attention for about 5 minutes on a task, you want to be proactive, right? And about 4 minutes, or when you start to see them starting to slow it down, let's take a break and we'll come back and finish our cookies in a minute. Or you learn how to kind of switch up things so their interest is regained again. What are their tolerance for interactions? Some kiddos do not like their hands dirty. Some kiddos, they give up very easily because something's hard. They're distracted, they're tired, they don't always want to do these things. Some kiddos, especially ones that come from neglect, just can't tolerate a whole lot of focused attention. It's too much for them, and that's okay. So how much animation and stimulation can they endure? Sometimes us being all happy and excited and yay builds and amps them more than helps them. And so it's things to consider. Not every time you meet with a kid do you have to be loud and crazy and boisterous, because not every kid needs that. Rebuilding your relationship and attachment is something that in our last presentation with development, we talked about attachment and how the reality is it's going to get broken. Things in life happen, and it's not about not breaking that attachment or breaking that connection. It happens. What's real and realistic and what should be a goal as an adult, as a parent, is not never having a bad moment or making a mistake, but the repair of it, saying I'm sorry, giving them another opportunity to try, like a redo, right? Those are all really important moments, and that is the real work. That is the key to your children bonding with you, is you're able to reconnect after a hard moment. And that is what they ultimately carry with them. So, in my personal and professional opinion, there's some rules to working with kids. Number one, repetition is okay. And what happens is it creates safety and consistency. Kids need to know what to expect. Most humans do. So this is why, if you'll notice, if you ever watch cartoons with your kiddos or listening to kid songs, or when you read these stories, they're very repetitive. And that's because that's how kids also learn, right? With kids, you got to learn how to be fluid, but structured. Which kind of sounds like an oxymoron, right? How am I supposed to go with the flow, but also be prepared? Be prepared with an idea or a game or something you want to play, and be prepared to just drop it all and follow the kid and go there as well. It's about learning fluidity is learning attunement. It's learning how to read the child and knowing kind of what to do before it gets to a point of no return, or you lost them, or at least wrapping it up in a way that you're letting the child know and recognize, hey, you're starting to feel a little like this. How about we do one more minute and then we're going to take a break? You're helping that. Keep it simple. We are the co-regulators. It does not matter what the toy is. It does not matter what the game is, what the experiment is. It doesn't matter how expensive it is. It doesn't matter how loud and crazy it is. We are the ones that co-regulate for this child. We are the lead. We are the container. And so it doesn't take all the bells and whistles. It just takes us being present and willing and patient. Like I said earlier, you have got to be comfortable with being silly, playful, messy, gross. If you have kids who are 5 and up, you know they're already talking about butts and boogers and farts and poop, and they think it's the funniest thing in the world. And as an adult, we're thinking, oh my gosh, annoying, gross, ugh, you're being inappropriate. You got to get comfortable with that. You got to get comfortable with being silly, getting on the floor, being messy is okay. Having fun is the ultimate priority, and it is incredibly therapeutic and clinically significant. We're building this bond, but we're also there's so many ways we can break this down. So for example, the gross thing. I have a rule in my own practice where I will not correct children for saying inappropriate things in regards to like farting and pooping. So if I say, hey, how was your day? What'd you eat for breakfast this morning? A bowl of farts. I'm not going to say, that's gross. It's inappropriate. Don't say that. I'm going to say, a bowl of farts. No wonder your breath stinks so bad. Gross. I'm going to join them in that moment. Because the way I see it is, one, it's hard being a kid. It really is. And that's their sense of humor. They're learning their sense of humor. And we don't want to shut them down. 3, it's so developmentally appropriate, right? And most importantly, I'm promising this child that there's nothing they can say to me that will make me upset with them. There's nothing that we can't talk about. I don't know how many times I've listened to the same song, the same movie, the same book. And it's just like, I can't take any more of this story. If I never hear Baby Shark again, I will be so happy with my life. It would be a great life. But I can't promise this child that they can talk to me about anything. This is what comes with the territory. I can't promise them that without doing this. Fart jokes are included in that. There is no being inappropriate in therapy. Now, there are rules sometimes where I'm like, once we go back out into the hallway, that's the real world again. But in therapy, you don't have to worry about that with me, because me being open and unconditional about the things that they want to hear and talk about and see, and not shame them for being who they are, that is what's going to make that child talk to me about the real issues. Is I have proven there's literally nothing we can talk about that you can't tell me. And again, as a parent, that's what you want. And so it comes with a price, right? They do annoying things sometimes. But if we want them to connect with us and come to us, we have to be receptive to them. Expectations is a major issue when it comes to children and parenting. So many people think, what am I supposed to be looking for or doing? Again, I have many colleagues at my agency who work in the older kids programs that are just like, I don't know if I'm actually doing anything, you know? Remember what your goal and purpose is. So if we're talking about PCIT, for example, and you're in that 5 minutes of special playtime, the purpose of that spatial playtime is to use your assigned pride skill. You're just working on reflections today. Everything else can get put aside. And once that 5 minutes of special playtime is done, you can go back to being the mom of, okay, now you got to clean your room. I'm going to tell you what to do all again. But that 5 minutes, that's not what that was about. And realizing as well, whether you're a parent or a practicing clinician, or you're fostering a non-related child, there are times where the hour a week that this child has when they come to therapy is the only time in their life that they don't have to be anything. They don't have to be good to be able to play with me or to play with my special toys. They don't have to perform. They don't have to do anything other than be who they are in this room. And the sad reality is sometimes that hour a week is the only time that this kid has that in their lives. And so if I'm a clinician and I am thinking I'm not doing enough, my expectations might be off. I might have to recalibrate my way of thinking versus making this little person fit into what my agenda and needs are. And so, of course, this ties into considering their trauma past or even their current traumas. There's a lot of children out there that are experiencing a lot of really difficult things. And, I say trauma, it doesn't necessarily have to be abuse. This last year with COVID and everything, very traumatic for so many people. And it's something that we're going to have to recover from as a society. And it's stressful. And so remembering that there's never no reason for a behavior, no reason for us to see, or no reason that we agree with, but that does not mean no reason. So here's the fun part. So the intervention that we're going to do today is we're going to do a science project. And this will be in a separate video. And there will actually be 2 other projects that you'll be able to do using really simple household items. And we'll be practicing how to use the pride skills, but also how to lead and engage your child. So this particular experiment is called Milk Rainbows. And the materials you'll need is you'll need some dish soap, very little bit of dish soap. You're going to need some milk. I personally use Lactaid, and it works great. A bowl, a Q-tip, and food coloring. So we just talked about purpose and benefit, right? What is the purpose of me doing this? It's not just the experiment. There needs to be intent, meaning you got to go in there with a plan. So what you're looking for essentially is, can the child allow you to lead the intervention, or do they just take over? Or if you tell them, no, when mom says, then it's your turn. Can they tolerate that? If your child's in therapy for those very reasons, this is absolutely something that you want to address when you're doing these kinds of things with them, is teaching the child to learn as the adult, I got it. All you got to do is show up, follow my lead, and you will be happy because I got it. I'm the grown-up. The reason kids are so controlling is they don't believe in us as the grown-ups sometimes. So will they follow your lead? This creates great opportunities for having reciprocal interactions with you. It assesses their ability to articulate and formulate thoughts. So, it tells you about what their thought process looks like or how they organize thinking. So, for example, you have all the materials. You'd say, okay, so what are the materials we need? Okay, first I need this, then I need this, then I need this. Can they put it together, or do they need to be prompted to form a logical thought process, right? Or are they even able to know what to do with these items? They, at the very least, they should be able to speculate. I love doing these projects because the speculation part is one of my absolute favorite parts of this process, because what I look for personally is, can a child share their ideas, or do they become insecure or seek validation or approval? Some kiddos will refuse to make a guess about what's going to happen. What do you think these materials are for? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Or, we're about to do the final step before we get the reaction. And I say, okay, what do you think is going to happen? Some kids are confident and say, it's going to blow up. Other kids are, I don't know. What do you think, right? They're so stressed about creating their own ideas. It allows the child to be tactile, meaning they get to use their hands. And if you remember from our developmental presentation, 2 to 7 is all about interacting with our world. We can't process internally. We have to process externally. We have to touch and interact with our world. And so allowing a child to be tactile helps with regulation and focus. Can the child ask for help or express insecurities? If they're having trouble with something, step back as the parent and say something along the lines of, if you need my help, I can help you. You see this little one struggling to get it in, and as a grown-up, you just want to jump in and help them and do it for them. The middle ground is saying, oh, I see you're having a hard time with it. If you need mama's help, mama's sitting right here. Okay, you just have to ask. Sometimes they'll be like, okay, yes, I'm here, mom. Sometimes they'll be like, no, I got it. And they'll take another 5 minutes and they got it, right? It's a win-win. But can they ask you for help? Can they accept your help? Are you being invasive as a parent? How do you challenge your child? How do you help structure or organize your child? That requires some adult insight, right? Are you nagging your kid? Do you set really high expectations for your child? Do you fairly set them up, or is it like, here, figure it out? And it creates opportunities for fun in a non-threatening manner, meaning it's not clinical. Some of our kiddos are so smart, and I have a lot of them that dodge some of my games because they pick up on, oh, that's a therapy thing. I don't want to do that. Science projects are very much a therapy thing, but they're cleverly hidden as fun. And learning is supposed to be fun. So one reminder is, I know it says you're a good mom, but in reality, this is for all parents. This is for grandparents, this is for aunts, this is for uncles, this is for moms, this is for dads and stepmoms and stepdads. Is you're a good parent, even when you need a break from your kids. You're not perfect. You have really hard days. There's days you just can't do it all. You have reactions and feelings and blow up on your kid, that you have to ask for help, or that you miss your pre-parenting life, especially if you're fostering, especially if you're an older person fostering. We need a lot of parents and grandparents that are close to retirement, or they were retired and they had to take on this 5-year-old, and now that part of their life is like, wait a minute, no, we thought we were done with this, even if you actively chose to be a parent and planned it, you're still going to have moments where you're going to miss your life pre-parenting, and that's okay. You're still a good parent if you have any of these feelings. Hopefully other people are telling you this as well. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to check out this presentation. I will have a separate video made for the Milk Rainbows experiment. And I will also have 2 separate videos that have 2 other projects that are so fun, easy to do, easy to use, and you'll be able to practice some of these skills with your child and hopefully start getting that bond and connection back. If at any point in time you have any questions or concerns or want some support, this is my contact information. Again, my name is Jennifer Johnson and I'm at Christian Counseling Service, and we are always available and ready to help because parenting is rough. Working with children is amazing and so hard, and it really takes a village. So I want to thank you again for your time.